Today we're talking about my journey of attracting women. You guys are going to understand essentially the beginning of my journey. I wasn't really attracting women just in general, but now that I've gotten a little bit older, also more experience, there's things that I have noticed. Also, I have gotten more dates and all that. I notice I attract more women just in general. And there's a lot that I can cover in this video, but I'm going to just try keeping it a little bit short and sweet just for you guys. So I'm not taking too much of your time. If you guys do enjoy this video, don't forget to smash that like button. And also, if you want to see a part 2, go ahead and comment down below and I'll make a part 2 if this video also does well. So let's go ahead and dive into my first relationship. So this started in middle school. That relationship, it lasted 5 years. And knowing what I know now, the reason why she was attracted to me was because she saw me on a day-to-day basis. And this is something that you'll kind of understand, like the vast majority of relationships, they should happen in person, but then again, with today's generation, today's society, the vast majority of relationships are happening online now, which of course, going back to my first relationship that lasted 5 years, is she reached out to me. And this is something that you'll notice is essentially if she's interested, she'll reach out and she'll make the conversation a whole lot easier. So she was messaging me, and before you know it, I found out who she was. And then before you know it, that relationship started. And then shortly after high school, that's when that relationship ended. But essentially, I learned, knowing what I know now, I learned quite a bit. I'm like, okay, well, this is how a relationship should be, is that you should honestly be vibing with this person. You should be interactive. You guys should be talking. You should be having good times. It's like, okay, well, the other thing is, if you want to go do something, normally, this also applies to the current relationship that I'm in now, which I find it a little bit odd just because like I noticed that first relationship and my current girlfriend, they're like a little bit tomboyish personality types, but essentially they should be like a cheerleader. So whatever you are doing, like your mission or whatever that is, they should be cheering you on. They should be like, hey, do you need help with this? Or they're like, hey, you can do it. And that's one thing that you'll notice about relationships if you do end up getting into one. But anyways, going to attracting women. So after that relationship, I'm gonna say I was a little bit skinny, unattractive, and I noticed I wasn't really attracting women. But then I started using dating apps and I noticed I got a little bit of attention, but it wasn't the type of women that I really wanted. I went on several dates and realized, oh, okay, well, this is this type of person or whatever. And you start seeing different types of personalities of what you're attracted to and also what you can attract as well. So this is something that I kind of noticed when I was using the dating apps, is you tend to attract certain type of women and you'll notice that they're more interested in you. Of course, with the dating apps, there's a lot more guys, there's a lot more competition. I haven't really cold approached. There's been a couple instances where I have cold approached women. It's just not my preference. I much rather use a dating app just because I find it a whole lot easier, because I don't have to go out there and meet somebody, because I value my time a little bit, especially now that I'm getting more and more older. I realize everybody just in general wants your attention, and honestly, I don't really have time to give people free attention. So when I was using the dating apps, essentially, I noticed I got a few matches here and there, and I was like, okay, well, why is it that I'm only getting a couple matches? And I was like, how can I make that different? Then I ended up finding out, oh, okay, you need to become more attractive. You need to take better profile pictures. And then also bringing on my girlfriend on the YouTube channel, she mentioned like, hey, this is how you should kind of set up your profile and all that, which I kind of learned how to set up my profile to get more matches. I noticed that I learned is you need to put on more weight. You need to put on more mass, because I was a little bit too much on the skinny side. I realized my looks was holding me back, so I started working out, started hitting the gym, and also because I was a little bit hurt from that first relationship, and I started increasing my looks, and I started noticing I got more and more matches. So this is something that I want you guys to kind of understand is in order to attract women, you need to be more better than the vast majority of people. So you got to become above average. People don't realize this. Looks really do matter. They really do sell. So almost anything out there in life, you're going based off of looks, off of appearance. You're selecting something like when you're going to make a purchase based off the appearance or based off the reviews. but essentially it's the appearance that catches your eyes first. So that's why I'm going to emphasize your looks throughout this whole entire video, because that's the best thing that you can do. And essentially that's what I did. I increased my looks, and I noticed, hey, I started getting more and more matches, and then that was able to lead to more dates, because I realized the more attractive you are, the more likely you're going to meet this person like just in real life. You're not going to just be texting them. Also, it makes the conversation a whole lot easier. You're going to notice that when you become more attractive, women just in general, they're going to want to reach out to you. They're going to want to interact with you, and they make conversations a whole lot easier. They'll start up a conversation with like, hey, you have a nice chain, or you have a nice shirt, or whatever it is. They'll find some sort of little subtle thing to mention, and before you know it, a conversation pretty much starts. And that's something that has happened really recently, especially now that I honestly think I'm in the best shape of my life. Currently, right now, I'm recovering from an injury, but essentially once I recover from my injury and I start going back to the gym, it's not going to be that difficult to put that mass back on. But essentially, going back to the dating apps, I noticed I got more matches, and then that led to more dates. And this is something that you guys will notice. Never show up early on a date. That's just my personal rule. I'm giving you guys a little bit of advice here. Also, when you're messaging, try making the messages interesting. Try getting a response, because like, so going back to another point real quick, is when you're attractive, it makes the messages a whole lot easier, because you can actually say less, because you're more valuable than what they are. So that's why I'm emphasizing looks. But anyways, so when you're messaging them, make a message really interesting, and then also try hanging out in person. But when you do hang out in person, make sure you show up late. And this is something that I noticed, is when you show up early, I noticed the chicks, essentially, they're not as interested. They end up becoming more flaky, especially when you show up on time. And I just made a general rule from my experiences, because there's times that I show up early and then I'm like, hey, I'm here. And I think there was one time that I got stood up, which, you know, it is what it is. It happens. But anyways, so I started making it a general rule to show up 15 minutes late, 20 minutes late. And I'll be like, hey, I'm on my way. I'm en route. And I'll send them a picture of, hey, I'm on the road or whatever. And before you know it, they're like, oh, okay, no worries. And it shows more interest. That's something that I really noticed with the attraction, is that they're more interested in you if you're showing up late and you don't show up on time. So that's just something that I learned. The other thing that I learned is essentially have more experiences, because you learn how to interact with people. And this is something that just applies to everything. The more you practice something, or the more that you do it, essentially you become a little bit better. So the more dates that you go on, you're going to notice that, oh, okay, well, I know what to say and what not to say. You won't be as awkward. So going to my current girlfriend, essentially that experience was a little bit awkward at first, but of course it was the first time that I ever met her. And you'll learn just from your overall experiences, like, hey, if somebody's shy or they're not really interested, they're not going to really talk to you, they're not going to interact with you, and you'll know that the attraction isn't really there. So realize that the conversation needs to be both ways. It can't just be one-sided. And then also you want to make sure they have a good personality. And then just a side note is meet them somewhere in public. That's one thing I'm going to really emphasize. And also, personal rule, never pay for the first date unless you don't mind or you're making money. But it's just my personal preference. I'm like, okay, well, hey, I'll pay for like a coffee or something like that, but I'm not gonna pay for a full meal or anything like that. Anyways, so going to the attraction now that I have gotten older, and then also my physique, I think it's gotten a whole lot better from when I first started, is that I noticed that essentially women are just attracted to you just in general. You know, you'll get like more stares or more looks more often, but then again, I'm not constantly looking for that because it's not a priority, and then I'm in a relationship. So you'll notice like girls or women just in general, essentially they want to talk to you, they want to socialize when you're more attractive just in person. Like there's a couple instances, one was like kinda at work, kinda not. It was kind of weird. Anyways, so essentially this lady, she was essentially talking to me, and she was just saying, hey, nice t-shirt, I went to that concert too. And then before you know it, a conversation sparked up, and then after it was like a meeting or something like that, I forgot what it was exactly, but essentially after that, she started talking to me in the parking lot, which I found it like so out of the blue, but it kind of makes sense when you're a little bit more on the attractive side. Then the other thing is, like how I said, I'm recovering from my injury, so I went to my doctor's appointment, and the receptionist was there, and before I know it, she sparked up another conversation. And keep in mind, they're around my age, give or take 2 or 3 years, so they're somewhere within that ballpark range, but you can tell the level of interest. Like, people treat you way differently just in general. Like, I noticed people when they treated me when I was younger, it wasn't the best, but now that I gotten more attractive, it's kind of still a little bit of the same, because like, you have to realize you need to change your personality as well. You need to change your inner appearance just as much as you change the outer appearance. So the other thing is, you got to put in a little bit of work and effort. But what I realized is my outer appearance changed quite a bit just from the vast majority. Like, if you compare myself 5-6 years ago, you can see a huge major difference. But to where I'm currently at, I notice people just in general, they'll treat you a whole lot better, especially if they're just meeting you, because you're more attractive. It also opens more doors and more opportunities when you increase your looks. The other thing I want to mention is, with your journey, it takes time. So like, a lot of people will make it seem out there like, hey, you're gonna be attracting women like instantly. It doesn't really happen like that, and I think it's kind of bad that they make it sound like, oh, you're gonna be attracting women all the time. It's gonna be like maybe once every month, once every 2 weeks. It's just random. It depends on your lifestyle. And that's one thing that a lot of people don't mention, is like, on these journeys, like, hey, they're like, hey, do this self-improvement and you're gonna start attracting more and more women. It doesn't happen that fast. You got to give it time. And then the other thing is, what is your surroundings? So that's another thing that you got to take into consideration. So like, are you social? Are you interacting with people? Because like, those instances where I can tell I attracted women, it was in places that I didn't even expect for that to happen. And the other thing I want to mention is the attraction. You got to find where is the best source that you can essentially start attracting women. So essentially, the vast majority of women that I have attracted, I notice, have been online. That's where I'm honestly had the most dates. So you have to factor in, where are you getting like the most attention from, and then whenever you find that most attention, that's where you double down on it. So the other thing I want to mention is, so with me using the dating apps, you'll find out which dating apps are the best, and then also certain dating apps are used for certain things. So like, if you want to just have fun, well, you kind of already know which dating app to use. If you're looking for a relationship, you use the other dating app. And essentially, the relationship one, relationship dating app, that's where I actually met my current girlfriend. My thoughts and opinions on, like, dating apps, honestly, it's not the worst place to be meeting people, but the other thing you have to take into consider is the photos. It can be a little bit misleading, and you're kind of taking a chance. So that's one thing about attracting people online. It's way different than attracting them in person. But anyways, what I'm just trying to get at is, find out where you are attracting them from, and kind of go that direction. So if you're attracting them online on dating apps, maybe you should open up more dating app accounts, and then see if that opens up more options for you, and then you can fine tune it from there. The other thing is, if you're attracting them in person and you're like, okay, well, I'm attracting them in this certain little place or whatever, well, you know where to go to essentially start attracting women. So factor that in. The other one that I want to mention, which is kind of out there for those of you that are just looking to attract women without like really putting in any effort, watch some of my retention attraction videos. You guys are going to kind of understand. I think that's how can I say, it's not the best way, but it's an easy way essentially, and it's free to do. Anyways, I'm not going to talk too much of that in this video, just because I don't really want to mix and match, because like, I have my thoughts on it that you do attract women to a certain extent with that, like with retention, is that you get the confidence. And that's something that I noticed is like, while I'm on a streak, essentially I do get more confident, and I notice I do start attracting more women. And I also brought my girlfriend on the channel, and she talked about, yeah, you can notice confidence off of a guy, and it's something that they just sense right away. And I talked about this on my channel, is that essentially women are better at picking up on just things in general, like, you know, social cues, also appearances. So they notice the little things way better than what guys do. But anyways, so when you become more confident, women just find that naturally attractive. The other thing in my experiences is learning what women are attracted to. So like, there's certain personality traits that women find attractive. So some things are reachable for you to change, but realize you do need to start putting in work and effort, which I realized, hey, the physique, it increased my appearance. Also, it made me feel better, because that was just one of my goals that I've been wanting to do, because I wanted to change my appearance for the longest time, and I finally did it. And I started looking at my physique, and I'm like, hey, it's actually starting to look good, and it's shown in confidence as well. So that's why I said you need to change the outside, and you also need to change the inside. But anyways, I want this video to be a little bit shorter. If you guys want a part 2, go ahead and comment down below. Don't forget to smash that like button, and I'll go ahead and catch you guys on the